You're likely familiar with plenty of notebooks and laptops from ASUS, but ASUS truly has something for everyone, and today we're talking about creators, because the ProArt lineup has you covered with some new releases that have become some of my favorite workhorses. If when you think ProArt, you think of components and displays, it's time to think about taking all of that on the go with some sleek but properly powerful notebooks. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? These are the super portable ASUS ProArt PX13 and the larger yet elegant ProArt P16. Okay, before we get started, a big thanks to ASUS for sponsoring this video and for outfitting me with a couple of their latest ProArt laptops to try out for my actual work. Just like with my other video where I partnered with ASUS, I want to make it clear that while they are the video sponsor, all of the opinions and experiences shared here are purely my own and were not subject to any edits or changes from ASUS themselves. Now, that being said, I have been using the ProArt lineup as my main laptops for the last few weeks, first with the PX13 as that arrived first, and then with the P16. There are some key differences between the two, especially in terms of design, but the philosophy is basically the same. ASUS is looking to provide a powerful yet adaptable package that can serve everyday work, creative work, and even some extra fun when the desire strikes. Okay, we're going to dive into the PX13 first. After all, it's the one that's right in front of me. As the name implies, this is the smaller of the two, but as you can see, it is also a convertible. This laptop sports a 13-inch display right on par with the great screens that ASUS has been putting on many of their notebook offerings. I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it as long as ASUS continues to do it. The move to put OLED on as many laptops as possible is such a good idea. This one here on the PX13 is a 16x10 Lumina OLED touchscreen that makes for a vibrant and detailed viewing experience that is admittedly held back by just a couple of smaller details. Namely, it's the fact that this 13-inch display can only pack so much into it. I tend to have my scaling a little bit tighter than the default so that I can multitask a bit better, fit a few more things, a few more elements in the screen here, but when it comes to this display, I have to hold back a little bit because then squinting would become the norm. The other detail that holds this screen back from being superb is the 60Hz refresh rate. Now, this is also the case for the larger ProArt P16, but I'm going to get to that later. I can hear some gamers out there groaning about this a little bit, and I'm right there with you. However, we do have to remember that this is a creator-forward laptop and not a gaming powerhouse. Could things be smoother overall at a higher hertz? Absolutely. But don't count these laptops out of the fun department simply because of that detail. Trust me, the ProArt can still game pretty well. Now, you've seen me already take this laptop from tablet configuration and then rotate the screen back over to laptop status because the PX13 is a convertible that can go from closed to laptop to tent to just straight tablet. With this Lumina OLED also being a touchscreen, you are able to use something like a stylus to get things like drawing and precision navigation done in photo and video editing apps like DaVinci Resolve. And while it did feel kind of comfortable to do so sitting back on a couch and calmly editing, my and your workflows might already be so set in stone that we'll just stick to what we know. Alright, I got ahead of myself with that display talk. Let's zoom back out and talk about the design. As I said before, the PX13 is the ultra-portable version of this year's ProArt bunch, and at just 3 pounds and measuring at 15 millimeters thin, this is definitely the laptop I've been chucking into a bag and nimbly carrying around to cafes and hotel rooms. The look is as inconspicuous as the size because you have this nano black color right here, this coating that provides a really sleek look in any condition. And all of the ProArt laptops can also withstand the elements due to military-grade durability. And with all of that, ASUS manages to make the I/O as robust as a creator might need, right down to having a USB-A port, a full HDMI port, and a micro SD card slot over on the right side, which I do wish was full-sized. These USB-C ports can double up as charging ports as well if you don't really want to use the included charging brick. However, you do have to make sure that you're feeding the laptop at least 100 watts of power to ensure good performance out of the processing package found within. After all, this official power brick over here pumps out 200 watts to cover all bases. And that's because the ProArt laptops are able to support the graphical and video editing work with one thing creatives like me are always looking for in Windows laptops like this: a dedicated GPU. You can see it switch over to it right here. That's right, we have NVIDIA RTX graphics in both the PX13 and the P16 in a few different possible configurations. Now, my review unit of the PX13 sports the RTX 4060, which brings with it 8GB of VRAM, plenty of power to handle my usual video edits, even with plenty of effects and graphics added in. That GPU actually backs up the star of the show in these ProArt notebooks, and that is the latest AMD Ryzen AI processor. The AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370, that might be a mouthful, but it's the latest and greatest in what AMD calls their Zen 5 or Strix Point architectures. All of this is backed up in my review unit by a 1TB SSD, 32GB of RAM, and a cooling system that you can hear firing up when you're doing higher powered tasks, especially when you're plugged in. I'll talk more about how I use this entire package to my advantage, whether plugged in or unplugged later. But together, the AMD Ryzen AI and the RTX 4060 provide their own levels of support in AI-powered tasks and workflows. Okay, let's talk a little bit of AI. I know it's getting a bit too prevalent in tech in general these days, but when you're working with plenty of current mainstream editing apps, AI is actually doing a lot more than you might realize. DaVinci Resolve is my main example, where features like the voice isolation and the audio transcription, and also like noise reduction, all of these things are getting supported by either the NPU in the AMD processor or just straight up by the NVIDIA RTX 4060. ASUS also takes advantage of the AI support in their own ways with things like noise cancellation in the speaker output or the directional recording that's available in the microphone input. And of course, there are all of the AI software bits. After all, these laptops do rock that Microsoft Copilot button right on the keyboard. You just press this button and Copilot comes up to field any ideas or questions that you might have and then just help you figure things out from there. Where ASUS adds their own AI capabilities is through two apps, MuseTree and StoryCube. MuseTree looks to cultivate inspiration through image generation. Simply put in a string of text or even provide the app a crude drawing and it will do the rest. The visuals it pumps out can then be used in a tree for further ideation, because maybe you see your idea come to life, but then it makes you think of something else that you can then generate, and you build the tree from there. And of course, any of the generated images can be used for whatever else you might desire. StoryCube, on the other hand, uses AI to help organize the photos and videos you already have on your computer. By analyzing every file, the AI album can then put items together into categories and make them searchable. Even if you have a meticulous file naming system, sometimes you just can't find that one photo or clip that you took at that one place at that one time. With StoryCube, everything is already sorted via location data, the time it was created, and even what kind of camera was used to capture that shot. All of that makes it easier to find the needle in the haystack. StoryCube does need some time to parse through an existing library like mine, but moving forward, you can build the catalog over time by importing using the StoryCube app. Okay, that was a lot of talk about AI features in these ProArt laptops, but let's be honest here. Professionals that come to these ProArt laptops are likely looking to them for the actual power that they'll provide their workflows. ASUS has done well to create these tools that could benefit these professionals, but it's up to them to try them out. Otherwise, it's likely that creatives are going to fall back into the tried and true workflows they've already made a living through already. But that's totally fine. We're still at a point where we know the possibilities of AI, but they're not yet seamlessly integrated into our established routines. I actually like getting a couple of ideas from Copilot or using MuseTree to mess around in the idea canvas, but for now, you can at least rest assured that the AI processing in either the AMD Ryzen or the RTX 4060 here is being used to support some of the features that you already use, like content aware fill or generative image editing or various features in video production programs like DaVinci Resolve. You probably noticed I moved over to the bigger of the two laptops here, the ProArt P16. While the convertible nature of the PX13 makes it a very nimble and portable laptop to bring just about anywhere, this P16 is your classic larger laptop. It still has the same nano black coating and is mil-spec durable, which is pretty insane considering how much screen you're getting and how thin ASUS managed to keep everything despite all that. And you can imagine how much better things can get when the canvas is this much bigger. The Lumina OLED panel on here blows up to 16 inches in size, going the extra mile by also going up to 4K resolution. It's just such a gorgeous display that is as enjoyable to use for watching stuff as it is for working on. It sports the same great color and vibrancy that can then be dialed in using the Creator Hub software, through which you can access all of the other main settings for either laptop. It's also here that customizing the daily experience of the ProArt laptops happens, right down to setting when the NVIDIA graphics are activated. Which brings me to the way that I use these laptops. The P16 also comes with the AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370, which includes Radeon graphics that are like an updated version of the graphics you're familiar with from the ROG Ally handheld console. That means that when I turn off the dedicated GPU while on battery via this optimized setting, I still have plenty of power to do some creative work and even do a little bit of gaming if I want to. Lower settings in games like Street Fighter 6 still look great through the OLED display, and getting short-form video content done in DaVinci Resolve is still quite easy. And ASUS really does try to make sure you have everything you need in front of you. When doing some editing on the go, this wheel on the trackpad has become a nice extra tool. This dial pad is available on both ProArt laptops and can be programmed for many system adjustments and specific functions in certain apps. Some things are obvious, volume and brightness control for example, but then you can use the Creator Hub to set it to other abilities like horizontal scrolling on the timeline in Resolve or adjusting specific sliders in Lightroom. While I do usually make sure to have a mouse on me when I go places, this tool shows an attention to detail that I do appreciate from ASUS, and I'm trying to think of more ways of incorporating it into my flow. Okay, so practically speaking, my usual workflow with either of of these laptops is to keep that optimized setting on and just rely on the AMD processor to respond to emails, write scripts, browse the internet, and do plenty of media viewing for at least a few hours. If I really want to get some video editing done, I run a proxy generator on all of my project footage, and then scrubbing through the timeline gets way easier as I cut that video together. Finally, when I get some color grading done and insert some extra elements into the video, I will wait until I get back and plug in, which activates the NVIDIA GPU, and then I can take full advantage of the power in either ProArt laptop. This results in me getting serious in my video editing timeline, or getting serious in my matches in Street Fighter 6, or really playing most major video games because the RTX 4070 in the P16 is a proper portable beast of a graphics card. As I said before, the ProArt laptops might not be particularly geared towards gamers, but there is plenty of gaming fun to be had nonetheless. And since the battery life of either laptop gets me maybe like a max 4 or 5 hours in that optimized mode, there's plenty of time to get my less intensive work done in a cafe before heading back and getting down to the nitty-gritty. Sure, that means that the ProArt laptops might be more at home on a desk rather than on a lap, but this battery performance is still a step up from similar laptops I've tried in previous years. Aside from the RTX 4070, the P16 gets further boosts from its form factor by having a bit more room for cooling. While the PX13 has gotten pretty warm on my lap during edits, I haven't really felt that same level of heat from the P16. Also, the P16 has a full-sized SD card slot, which addresses one of the only main gripes I had with the smaller sibling. The other thing that this P16 provides, which I love, is a second solid-state drive, which I use for putting all of my video projects and assets, while all of the programs and games I might use on here go on the main drive. Oh, and I have to give ASUS a ton of props for the sound coming out of these speakers. The P16 is about as good as I've ever heard a Windows laptop blaring out music and YouTube videos and podcasts pretty much anywhere I am, and the P16 does admittedly sound better than the decent audio coming out of the PX13, likely due to the size and form factor differences. All in all, the P16 is about as full-featured a Windows laptop as I could really ask for. So while the portability of the PX13 makes it quite desirable, the extra room that the P16 provides really does mean some extra capabilities. But in general, there are very few compromises for serious creative work in either of these laptops. This is what it looks like when Windows laptops put in the right attention of detail when it comes to supporting professionals, and I can definitely attest to how well they have supported my videos and social media work over the last few weeks. Which does bring me to the prices of these laptops, and as you might expect, pro laptops like these ask a pretty penny. My upper model of the PX13 with the RTX 4060 also sports a price tag of $19.99, while the upper model of the P16 sporting the RTX 4070 can get up to $26.99. Now, given the latest and greatest offerings from AMD and the properly powered, dedicated GPUs, the build quality, the OLED displays, and the port selection in the I/O, I actually find these prices to be pretty competitive to other notebooks once they're comparably spec'd. I guess the name does fit these quite well. In the PX13 and the P16, you definitely get the style of art right alongside the pro abilities. Once again, I want to thank ASUS for partnering with me on this video and letting me try out the latest ProArt series laptops. To learn more about both of these notebooks and potentially get them for yourself, you can check my links in the description and in the pinned comment downstairs. But from there though, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.